The sun stood high over the fairground and made the gravel glow. Dust moved in thin waves across the rows of pens, and the air smelled like hay, leather, and warm metal. People walked from pen to pen with slow steps, hats pulled low, hands in pockets. The auctioneer's stand sat on a small wooden platform with a chalkboard for numbers and a bell that had not rung yet. In a back pen, a thin horse stood near the rails. Its coat looked dull under the light. The mane was tangled and too long, but the eyes were the thing the girl noticed first. They were soft and wide, and one eye had a faint wet track under it, like a single tear had slipped down and dried there. The girl held the rail and stared. She was quiet by nature, but she did not feel quiet now. Her father stood beside her with the calm posture of a rancher who had seen many sales and many animals. He did not rush forward, and he did not talk big. He rested his hand on the rail and took in small details the way a man of the land does. He watched how the horse set its feet. He watched the ears, the flanks, the shape of the ribs. He saw the long hooves and the rubbed hair at the nose where a rope had sat for a long time. He also saw how the horse leaned a little closer when the girl breathed out, as if her breath carried a message that the animal understood. The auction started with other lots. A pair of healthy calves went first. Men raised their fingers. The bell rang. Numbers rolled up, and then the bell rang again. There was a small cheer. A woman walked past with a clipboard and a smile. A man sold a saddle that looked nearly new. Another man won a bundle of fence posts. All this passed like the tide, and the girl kept her eyes on the thin horse that had not moved away from the rail. She felt something spread through her chest that was not exactly a thought and not exactly a plan. It was more like a knowing. The horse was not broken in spirit. It was tired. There was a difference. The auctioneer pointed to the back pen and called for attention. The thin horse was led up the alley by a kind neighbor who whispered to it. The horse came out into the square and blinked at the brighter light. The auctioneer said the age and the height and a few short facts. He spoke fast because that was his job. People looked and then looked away. No one wanted to start the number. The air felt long. The girl's heart beat so hard that she could hear it. She looked up at her father. He was still and quiet, but his eyes had gone gentle. "Stop, $10, the girl said. Her voice came out small but clear. Heads turned. A few smiles rose in the crowd, but not mean ones, just surprised ones. The auctioneer's mouth paused, and then he gave a quick nod. "We have 10, he said. He looked around for the next number. Nobody raised a hand, not one. The bell rang with a soft clack against the metal. "Sold," the auctioneer said with a long slide in his voice, like he liked the ending to that story. The girl felt the ground under her boots. She felt her father's hand rest on her shoulder for a second. It said many words without saying any. "You spoke. You chose. I saw your heart." Then he stepped forward to sign a slip and make it right. $10. The number looked small on a big page. The neighbor with the kind voice walked the horse over and said he could help them load if they needed it. He had a small trailer and an old blanket. The father thanked him. The girl stood near the horse's shoulder and kept her body soft and turned a little sideways the way her father had taught her. She did not reach for the face. She did not push with her eyes. She let the horse look at her and make up its own mind. The loading was slow but steady. The neighbor set the ramp and stepped aside. The father led. The girl followed at the hip of the horse, and when the horse stopped to think, nobody pulled. They gave it a moment. The horse lifted a front foot and tapped the ramp. The old wood made a small hollow sound. The horse took another step and then another. The girl breathed in and out and counted quietly in her head to keep her own body calm. At last, the horse stood in the trailer and the neighbor lifted the ramp and latched it. The girl thanked him 3 times. He waved and said the world could use more quiet hands. The drive home was slow because the father always drove slow with a trailer. The road rolled between fields and fences and a thin line of cottonwoods by the creek. The girl kept one hand near the side vent and spoke now and then, not a stream of words, just a steady set of small ones. "We are going home now," she said. "There is water. There is shade. It is quiet there." She liked to think that the horse knew the shape of her voice even if it did not know her words. At the ranch, the father backed the trailer beside the barn. The door of the nearest stall stood open. Fresh shavings lay inside. A blue bucket of water hung on a hook, and the light came in soft through the small window. The father opened the ramp. The horse waited. He did not rush it. He let the animal feel the air, smell the new place, and listen. A sparrow chattered outside and the wind made a low sound in the grass. The horse stepped down, paused, and then walked toward the stall like a traveler who had found a porch. Water came first. The horse drank slow and long. The girl felt like she was watching a plant wake up after a dry season. The father checked what needed checking. He looked at the eyes and the nose and the skin and the hooves. He did not make a face, not even once. He only said what was true and kind. "We can fix feet," he said. "We can soothe eyes. We can clean and feed and rest. We go steady." A local vet came by in the late afternoon because the father had called ahead from the road. The vet was a simple man with quiet hands and good boots. He liked this ranch. He liked how the father listened and how the girl watched. He said the eyes were not damaged, just irritated by dust. He gave a small ointment and a calm plan. He said to soak the feed to make it soft, give salt and clean water, and keep the horse in shade for a few days. He patted the horse once on the shoulder and said, "You landed in the right spot, friend." Then he tipped his hat to the girl and left a smile behind with his bill. The evening came cool and sweet. The girl brought a soft brush and stood at the shoulder, where a horse can see you and not feel trapped. She brushed in short strokes. Hair lifted in the light like thin clouds. The horse's breathing slowed. The girl hummed a tune she had learned from her grandmother. Only 3 notes again and again. The horse's ears turned toward the sound and then let go of their tightness. The body softened along the back. The girl felt her own chest loosen. They chose a soft halter from a hook and took off the old rope. The father cut the rope apart later, not angry, just done with it. He held the new halter in open hands and let the horse smell it. The horse blinked and lifted its head into the space like a yes. The father buckled it with a slow click. The horse closed its eyes for one long second, a small sign of peace that meant the world to both of them. They set a small meal, soaked and easy, in the corner feeder. The horse sniffed it and then turned away, not ready. The girl's heart dropped a little. She looked at her father with a question she did not want to ask out loud. Did we make a mistake? The father wiped his hands on his jeans and shook his head. "First days can be strange," he said. "The body needs to learn it is safe. We do not rush, we offer, we wait." Night laid its soft hand over the ranch. The stars came like seeds thrown across the sky. The girl stood at the stall door with her chin on her arms and watched the horse stand in half sleep, hind foot cocked, ears half forward. She did not want to go inside. Her father walked up and leaned against the post beside her. He told her a small story from years ago, about a stray dog that had hidden under the truck and would not eat for 2 days until he turned his back and sat on the step and just breathed. "Sometimes trust grows when you give it room," he said. "You cannot pull a leaf open. You wait until the sun does it." Before the first light, when the world was gray and soft, the girl woke early. She cut an apple into thin slices. She carried a single slice in her palm, hand low, fingers flat. She stood again at the shoulder. The horse stretched its neck a little, sniffed the air, and then sniffed her sleeve. The girl did not force the moment. She simply waited. The horse's lips brushed her palm. The slice disappeared. The girl's breath came out in a happy rush that sounded close to a laugh. She tried again and then stopped. Enough for the first morning. She wanted the horse to look forward to the next moment. She set the rest of the slices on the ledge where the horse could reach them alone. Then she checked the water, the shavings, and the small window that brought in light without heat. She brushed 2 more slow lines along the shoulder and stepped back with a soft word that meant good. Her father came with a notebook. He wrote a short list on the back of an old feed sack because he liked to write plans where work lived. Water, brush, soft voice, short walks, sun not heat. He tacked the list to the stall wall with a bent nail. He looked at the girl. "We keep the same song every day," he said. "Animals can hear music in a plan." Morning light spread over the pasture like a warm blanket. The girl walked to the barn with a bucket and a smile that grew all by itself. Each day had a rhythm now. Greet the horse, check the water, brush the coat, and speak in a soft voice that felt like music. The horse met her at the stall door, ears forward, eyes bright and calm. It touched her sleeve with a light nudge as if to say, "I remember you." She laughed softly and set the bucket down. The father watched from the aisle with the easy look of a man who trusts time and simple work. The ranch was still the same place. Fences, dust, wind, but the feeling inside it had changed. It felt more awake. They stepped into the day's small tasks. The girl brushed along the neck and shoulder in slow lines. The brush raised a little dust, then smoothed it back into shine. The horse stood still and shifted weight now and then, the way a body relaxes when it feels safe. The father checked hooves. The farrier was due that afternoon, so he made sure the horse would be ready to lift and hold without worry. He showed the girl how to slide a hand down the leg and give a gentle ask. The horse lifted the foot like it had learned a new word. The girl whispered good and meant it with her whole heart. At noon, the farrier came down the lane with a friendly wave. He worked in the shade of the barn, speaking little, moving steady. He trimmed the long hooves into a clean shape like a tailor fixing a suit so it fits again. The horse shifted once, then stood brave. The girl stood near the shoulder, counted her breaths, and let her calm travel through the lead rope. After each foot, the farrier smiled and said, "That's enough praise to fill a bucket." The father offered cold water and thanked him. When the farrier left, the horse walked out of the stall with a new lightness. It was like watching a music box find its tune. Afternoons were for short walks. They went beyond the fence line, where the wind carried scents of clover and dry creek stone. The horse stopped at new sounds, metal tapping, crow calling, a tractor far away, and the girl stopped too. She waited and breathed. She counted to 5. The horse lowered its head a little and followed. Step by step, the world outside became less strange. A grasshopper jumped and the girl laughed. The horse flicked an ear toward her laugh and then kept walking, gentle and curious. One evening, a neighbor brought a flyer from town. "Gentle Horsemanship Day, next Saturday," it said. There would be simple games, leading in a quiet circle, stopping at a cone, backing 2 steps, and standing by a little flag while it waved in a soft breeze. "It's friendly," the neighbor said. "Not a big show, folks clap for effort." The girl pressed the paper to her chest. The father looked at the horse and then at the girl. "We go to learn, not to win," he said. The girl nodded quickly. That was exactly what she wanted. The days before the event felt like making bread, small, repeat steps that rise into something whole. They practiced a circle around a barrel. They paused at a cone and counted together. They took 1 step backward, then 2, then stood quiet while the girl softly lifted and lowered the lead like a little cloud. The flag practice was the hardest. Even a gentle flutter could make the horse hold its breath. So they set a towel on a stick and moved it tiny inches, and they stopped before worry rose too high. The horse learned that the small wave would not press or chase. The girl learned that good training is a conversation, not a test. Saturday came with a clear sky. The fairground looked different than the day they first saw the horse. It looked friendlier somehow, like the place itself had decided to show its kind face. People led horses of many colors and sizes. Some wore shiny tack, some wore plain halters. The girl kept her eyes on her own lead rope and her horse's shoulder. The father walked beside them, silent and steady. He did not speak big hopes or warnings. He let the air stay clean of heavy words. They entered the ring for the first task, a slow circle around 3 small cones. The horse's ears moved like little radar dishes, but its steps stayed soft. The girl remembered to breathe. She looked where she wanted to go, not at the ground. They moved like a pair who had walked many mornings together, which they had. The judge wrote something on a card. The girl did not try to read it. She stroked the horse's neck with the back of her hand. "Good," she said. The stop and stand task came next. A small flag rested on a pole near the cone. The flag lifted, then fell as a breeze passed. The horse's head rose a little. The girl softened her knees and let the lead rope hang like a friendly string. She counted in her head, 1 to 5, then started again. The horse let out a long breath, the kind that loosens tight places. The father, outside the rail, breathed out at the same time without meaning to. The judge smiled and made another note. They finished each small task with patience. No rush, no pulling. Questions asked, answers allowed. When it ended, the girl felt as if her heart were a full pail carried carefully. The announcer thanked everyone for coming and then handed out a few modest ribbons. "Best partnership," he said at one point, and he looked right at the girl and her horse. The ribbon was not fancy, It was a soft color that matched the sky. The father clapped once and said, "That's the one that matters." The girl nodded because her throat had gone tight. She tied the ribbon around the halter for the walk back to the trailer. The horse did not care about cloth or pins, but it liked the girl's happy voice, and that was enough. Back at the ranch, life went on with its good, plain rhythm. The horse met them at the fence now when they came outside, not to ask for treats but to share space. It liked to stand with the girl by the gate and watch the light change across the pasture. The father found small jobs that fit the horse's new strength, carrying an empty sack for a few steps, then a light one, then two. The horse's coat took on a gentle shine. The eyes were clear. The muscles felt like they belonged to the body again. A week later, a quiet storm rolled across the hills. It passed quickly and left the air fresh and the ground soft at the edges. After the rain, a calf's call rose near the low pasture by a washout. It was not a cry of fear, just a lost sound, high and searching. The father looked up from the gate latch. The girl turned toward the sound. The horse's ears pointed the same way, steady and sharp. They walked out together, father on the high side, girl with the horse at a small distance so they would not crowd the calf. The washout was not deep, but it made a narrow, messy line that a young animal might not understand. The father stood where the ground was firm and spoke in a low tone. He did not push. He waited for the calf to see the easy path. The girl held the lead rope soft in her hand. The horse stood like a quiet wall, not blocking, just shaping space so the calf's mind could find the open lane. In a moment that felt longer than it was, the calf stepped sideways, then forward, then up onto clean grass. It shook its head and trotted toward open ground where its mother's smell floated like a string. The father watched the calf go, then looked back at the horse. He saw something in the angle of its neck, the way it watched the calf until it was safe, and then looked at the girl, asking, "Was that right?" The girl smiled and pressed a hand to the horse's warm coat. "Good," she said. "Good. Work done without fuss has a special shine." The day wore that shine for hours. News flows in small towns like water through grass. By the time the sun dipped, a friendly version of the story had already touched a few porches. The next morning, a sack of good oats sat by the barn door with a short note pinned to it in careful handwriting. "For the $10 heart." The father held the note a long time before he set it on a nail near the ribbon. He did not say much. He did not need to. The vet stopped by later in the week to check a neighbor's lamb and decided to swing through the ranch. He looked the horse over, smiled at the bright eyes, and gave a little nod at the clean hooves. "If this keeps up," he said, "this horse will be worth more than that truck." He pointed his chin toward the old ranch pickup, which coughed sometimes before it started. The father rubbed the truck's fender with a grin. "This one was always worth more," he said. "We just needed to see it and keep seeing it." Days settled into a good groove. The girl learned to read small signs, how the horse tilted an ear, how a muscle near the shoulder twitched before a step, how the blink rate slowed when calm rose. She learned to end a session on a small success, not wait for a big one. She learned that kindness is a method, not just a feeling. The father learned again that he loved teaching this way, not with loud talk, but with tasks gentle enough for a child to master and a horse to enjoy. The barn filled with these lessons. They hung in the air like the steady smell of hay. The ribbon found a home on a nail by the stall beside the note from the auctioneer and the feed sack list. None of it was expensive. All of it felt rich. When chores were done, the girl sometimes sat on the edge of the stall and read a book out loud in a soft voice. The horse liked human voices that stayed even. It would stand close, head low, and let the words float over its ears like a warm breeze.